Okay. In the Twitch channel.
hello. Okay, so we're gonna start now. Let's make ENCANTI full screen. And can you hear me, Ben? I may have muted you. Or no?
Yeah, I hear you. Do you hear me?
Yes, albeit a little bit quietly, but I think that is manageable. Okay, so okay, so we're gonna do this a little bit differently because my computer is not so healthy. So Ben's gonna stream the audio from his side, and I'm gonna reroute it to you. So if that sounds like ass, then we'll try to deal with it. But hopefully it won't sound like ass. And hopefully it will be awesome. So, Ben, I think everybody knows you already, but do you want to do do you have like a quick intro blurb you want to say?
Yes. How's it going? Can you hear me all right and everything?
I think they should be able to hear you.
Great. Hi, Greg. It's so good to see you again, and it's so great to be here on your Twitch channel. I think that some of the greatest mysteries in electronic music are discussed here first, you know, in your classroom, and it is such an honor to be in the presence of a glitch-based god such as yourself. Plus, it's been a while since we caught up. It's really good to see you again, man.
Yeah, it's true. It's really nice to see you again. When was the last time I saw you? That was in Valencia when I came to visit, wasn't it?
The last time we hung out in person was in Valencia. We had a really nice time. I remember that.
Yeah, that was great. I remember, actually, you're the one that first showed me that broccoli, the like fractal broccoli, or cauliflower or whatever. And yeah. I still, I saw it for the first time recently in a market nearby, and I was like, oh yeah, the Ben.
You know, I just had some of that the other night. Goes good in a little pasta mix.
Nice, very good. And I was going to ask you also, so you spent the last, what was it, a year, 2 years or something, researching that NMF concatenative synthesis, those techniques. Is that true, or?
Yes, in 2020 when the lockdown first happened, I came here to Scotland with my partner, and we kind of locked down in her place at Eagle Rock in Applecross, which is about as far away as you can get from people in the UK. Pretty ideal place. And I remember right after we came, we bought a ton of food and we locked down. The very first thing that I did for relaxation was something I had been waiting to do, which was listen to Rob Clouth's new album. He had just come out with 0 Point.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like escaping the plague. I didn't have any time to listen to it. So I put it aside and I'm like, wait until the right moment. So we set up my nice monitors and we had a bottle of scotch, you know, and we watched the sunset you can see right from the bedroom going down over the Atlantic Ocean. It was perfect. And we listened to 0 Point like twice, and it just blew my mind so much. Like, it so exceeded my expectations. I already loved everything Rob would do. I knew it would be great, but there was stuff in there that just woke me up, and it just reminded me that you can really still push the envelope. There are places that haven't been explored yet. Really deeply inspired me. Mm-hmm. So shortly after that, I got back into Max. I hadn't used Max for a really long time, and I started trying to research how he had made that music and that sound. And the word concatenative synthesis came up a couple of times, and there's not basically any easy way to do nice sounding sound designer level granular concatenative synthesis out there. So I just read every forum I could, and then started digging deeper, reading PhD papers and research papers, and I realized that this was a form of synthesis that already had at least one proof that it could sound really good. Mm-hmm. And there just hadn't been enough composers and producers and researchers putting their head into it. So with this idea, I took the idea to the University of Edinburgh So I was thinking about maybe, doing a formalized research project anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, hey, can I do a research master's here? Just get a master's for studying this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they agreed. They said, wow, this is great. This is really cutting edge. There were a couple other guys in the program that were in on concatenative synthesis and actually knew what they were doing.
Yeah, cool.
So it worked so perfectly. And last year in 2020, I started a master's degree to basically study concatenative synthesis as a music production and composition method, and examine it from the cutting edge of the cutting edge. Find all the different ways to do it. Do a survey. I even used yours. You're in my paper. Because I got WR concatenate early along in the way. I talk about our conversations. Because you remember, I was in a fever dream.
Oh, yeah, for sure, yeah.
We got to figure out how to do this. This is the future. This is amazing. And so...
It was interesting because I was kind of in the same... Like, when that came out, and then I had him on Twitch to, like, discuss his method and stuff, and I was trying to understand what the hell he had done. And after that, I also had a bit of a fever dream of just like digging into it, but mine lasted a lot less long than yours did, I guess.
Well, I think it helps when you have the motivation of, well, you have to write 17,000 words.
Yeah, that'll help.
You have to have a project.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have done it if it wasn't for some kind of fire lit under me like that, because it was the hardest thing that I've ever attempted to do.
Wow.
And I honestly have been, I've like, ever since getting my degree, I got cum laude in my master's, so top of the class, great project. I did 10 tracks. They were all interconnected, and I wrote 17,000 words about it. You're in this paper. I
didn't hear the tracks though. I want to hear that.
Yeah, I haven't shared it with anybody.
Okay. You gotta send them to me.
I'll send them to you. I'd love for you to hear them.
Yeah.
Basically, the entire album is 100% done with concatenative synthesis.
Whoa.
And the only exception is I also have my OB6, my analog polyphonic synthesizer.
Cool.
Because you just kind of needed something that could do a pure tone for some things. So that was the one exception I made. Everything else, the drums and all the harmonies and everything else is done with concatenative synthesis.
Were you sorry to interrupt quickly, but were you able to get like nice sounding kicks through the concatenative methods? Because that's one of the things that I had trouble with, was getting like nice. And maybe it's because I didn't post-process enough, but that was one of the things that I found really difficult, is to get really kind of punchy drums.
Well, one of the things I talk about in my paper is how do we use concatenative synthesis? One way is replacement. That's very easy, common. It's saying, okay, I have a drum loop here. I'm going to replace parts of it algorithmically using a corpus of other sounds. So you replace it, and then you stick the replacement in there. That's one thing you could do. The other thing you can do, though, is augmentation, where you're still using some of the original stuff, and you are mixing it with the concatenated version. You're using the concatenated stuff to augment it. So I found with kick drums, concatenative synthesis, unless you have a really good corpus, it really depends on what you have for the corpus.
Right.
But unless you have really nice kicks in your corpus, you're basically going to get something that's equal to the amplitude and the transient and the timbre of almost a kick. Normally just a little. But if you take that sound and you combine them with real kicks and you filter it a little bit and then send it all through a compressor, then it's almost like the same as if you took an acoustic kick drum and layered it over an electronic digital one. Yeah. You can kind of pick up like the timbral footprint of some other sound. So I found that was cool. That was like my go-to. I'd have a kick drum, a little bit of reverb, that'd make a and who knows what that would pull out of the void. Yeah. We're gonna recreate that with voices or recreate that with broken wood, and then you just layer it right on the kick drum, and it just feels cohesive.
That's wicked. Cool. Okay, so I think we should dive into the. I'm really glad to have you, so I could at least ask a couple questions about that, especially on the stream, because I know a lot of people were, especially like Vibrous has been going wild with that stuff, and quite a few others from our group have been getting really excited about it. So it's nice to be able to ask you a couple questions about that, but maybe I'll save that for maybe we'll have like a nice official interview about that stuff, because that would be a really good follow up, I think.
And anytime.
Okay, so let's get in there and review a couple tracks in here. I've given Ben exclusive access to the email account, so he's going to be hacking into the mainframe over there. And I think you'll still be able to see both of our faces, and if not, then maybe I'll try to finagle some stuff on my side. Maybe I can hide my face over here. Where's my face?
Okay. All right, I'm gonna do a screen share.
Okay.
It looks like I have permissions. Y'all see that? You see that?
Yep.
Okay. Cool. Let's see. We got. Okay. This was the first one I wanted to check out. This is Vibrous and Wireframe Wolves.
Nice.
And do we hear that?
Yeah, it sounded pretty good on my side, actually.
Okay, great. All right, let's jump in. Oh.
You've got all the stereo sound blah blah enabled?
Yep.
Okay. I'm ready to go. Let's hit it.
Okay. All right. I just want to start off by saying I'm a huge fan of both Vibrous and Wireframe Wolves. Vibrous introduced me to Wireframe Wolves on his Instagram, and everything he posts is amazing and insane. And like you mentioned, Vibrous has been kind of one of my buddies in this whole concatenative synthesis journey, because this is a small group of people you can even talk to about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So shout out to both of these great creators. I cannot wait to listen to what you made together. Here we go.
Wait, before you jump into that, have you talked to Wireframe Wolves before? Because he's like a super genius AI brain guy.
Yeah, I could tell. I'm a fan. We haven't really actually talked. And
you should hit him up. He's sick. He takes lessons with me, and it's like one of the big treats of every week is that I get to chat with him about what he's working on and stuff.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Well, geez, I might want to get lessons from him. That sounds great.
You should do, yeah. Okay.
All right. I can't wait to hear this. Let's go. Yeah.
Holy
Woo.
fuck.
Holy shit.
That was great. That was really
Gosh,
great.
man. That almost sounds like one of your tracks.
There's a
Got to
little bit of an
remind
influence,
myself.
yeah.
Yeah. Damn.
That's so nice. I feel like
Nice.
uh,
Nice work.
I feel
Yeah, go
like
ahead.
there's like a in a couple of there's like I feel like there's in a lot of the tracks that they submitted before there was like this thing or that thing that I would point out, and this one everything was just like so pristinely like finessed to the next level. Like I really like how this is such a nice combination of both of your guys' sounds and just
Yeah.
like yeah, damn. I'm really impressed with that.
Yeah. It's really impressive. I'm going to be really careful because there's not a lot I want you to change at all in this. Not a lot I would change at all because it's really special. Definitely have dialed in a mix of timbres and time stretching and effects here. They're really nicely merging. And the turnarounds, holy shit. Those quick turnarounds, some of them just had me. Woo! Okay, so my main advice with this, I think Vibrous, you're probably listening right now, is that if you were to take this to the next level, I think that it all comes down to the drum design in this. Re-examining the drum design. I think that the kicks the transient could probably come through a little bit heavier. Maybe put everything that's not a kick drum into a gatekeeper group and just like really sidechain that thing, because mixing this is going to be just as much as the art form as doing the sound design. Mixing is like the last level of extreme dynamics compression that you can give something that gives it its kind of timbre. And Woulg knows is better at this than anybody. The compression is part of the sound design.
I'd say you're the expert on that one.
Oh my gosh. I mean,
but
you're
keep going.
Yeah, it's always inspired me. Okay, so one comment of where I think the drums could develop a little bit more is in the beginning right here. The sounds in the beginning are awesome. It almost reminds me of like Vangelis, Hans Zimmer, Blade Runner, like in trailer music, Anthony Baldino sound right here in the beginning. Let me just. So that's great, but like the transient, it doesn't boom. It's not like wah. It's just kind of it doesn't have that
it's missing
that transient, that bump. Really could probably lean into these moments and really like low end and huge transient on these that really like punch through the speaker. And yeah, and then for all these other ones, I think that the snares, you could probably keep that snare, maybe change out the kick drum or try designing the kick drum further. And whenever I suggest kick drum design, I think that the best thing you can do is go as far back as you can. Like, I think the wrong way to deal with mixing kick drums is to put effects on it until it sounds better. I think instead what you got to do is go back to the inception of the sound. Hopefully the kick drum is in some kind of sampler. Mess with the amplitude envelope settings. Make the transient disproportionately loud than a lot of the boom there. It sounds like maybe the transient's like the same level or a little bit quieter than the actual boom. I think maybe work on that ratio from transient to boom to make that kick drum like shine through a little bit more. Plus with the gatekeeper. And then my last bit of advice is to change up your drum sounds when you get to the double time, because these drum sounds sound really good in halftime. They're big, especially that snare. It's a big snare. The size of your snare, the size of your drums really are designed for the tempo of the music. And the same snare that works at halftime doesn't always work for double time. And I think when it gets faster here, the snare is kind of, it takes up too much space for as repetitious as it is. So if you're going to look for a place to change up the snare, it's in that double time kind of breakbeat section, somewhere around here towards the end. I think if you guys can tighten up the drums on this, like just take it the production level bam, like right up to that next like big polished sound, then this track is going to be just
fucking huge.
Absolutely unstoppable.
Yeah, true. This is really good observations. That remind me of one thing that I always think about whenever I'm doing one of those like glitch drum groups where everything fucking goes through OTT and then it goes into drum bus. One of the things that I'll often do a lot is I trim down my kick drums way more than you would in any other scenario. So like I'm taking a shitload out of the boom. It's a lot of the times taking almost the entire boom out of there, because all that low end stuff is going to be filled in by any sort of bass stuff. And the other thing that's kind of interesting about when everything is really crushed in that group is that to get different expression out of, like, to get a lighter sounding kick, or to get to kind of change the intensity of different sounds, you can't rely on volume. Like, you can't rely on velocity anymore, because they're all going to get squashed into that huge group, right? So you'll see that a little bit of fade in on the beginning of the sound is going to make it a little bit lighter, or you can like bring in the tail end of it even more so that that sound becomes lighter and lighter and lighter. And part of the thing that I think is helpful about playing with that and practicing that is that it makes you really get used to, like, when does the kick sound its biggest? Like, how much of that tail end can we take out without it feeling too weak? Or how much, or sometimes, because sometimes you'll also find that if you leave the whole tail in, and then you get this big, like, sort of bloated whomp at the bottom of your kick, then we get a sort of a situation like this sometimes too, where it feels like there's less. It's like, because we lose some of that contrast, we lose some of the intensity of the sound as well. So yeah, no, I totally agree with you, and I really liked your point about the adjusting the drums for the faster tempo, because I've been playing a little bit with the slow fast, like alternating slow and fast, especially lately, and because I've been working a lot more on my mixing stuff, and I was like, is that the right approach? And then so it's nice to hear you reinforce that for myself as well. It's a bit of a selfish side note. Like, I'm getting a lot out of this too. Cool.
Great work, Vibrous and Wireframe Wolves. Wow, it's a absolute privilege to hear this work in progress, guys. Keep killing it.
Great
that is
stuff.
Absolutely awesome. Should we move on to another one?
Yeah, let's go to the next one.
Okay, all right, that was that one. Numbers is here to make you suffer.
Hell
Let's do this one. Numbers whips. Numbers is whips. All right, here we go. Numbers, you up. I worked on this alone for over a week now. I'm even listing important problems in it, so please roast away. Let the roasting commence.
I am the one. I am the one. I am the one. I am the one.
hi, thanks for checking in. I'm still a piece of garbage.
That's great. That's so serious there till the end.
Oh, that was sick. I had no idea where it was gonna go. I saw the sausage and I was like, okay, we're in for another noise treat from, because Numbers make some really sick noise tracks as well. So I was like, okay, here we go. We're ready for the noise. And it was the opposite. That was like so empty and huge. That's like a fucking Club Destroyer track right there.
This was reminding me, I remember when you were kind of playing with the term hyperglitch, and a lot of the music you were making at that time, you were like just pulling like these tiny fragments together to make these cool phrases. It kind of sounds like that era woulg in here with the little piano bits, but like at the same time it's chill. So I don't know if there's like a chill alter ego to hyperglitch.
Hyperglitch. There should be, like, I feel like there should be.
It's like hyperglitch Xanax.
Yeah.
This is cool. Okay, so I'm like, I keep coming back to this comment in the description here. I may be missing important problems in it, so roast away. I guess like it all really depends on like what you want this to be. You know, it's as a piece that it's unique. It's really original. It's weird, you know, and it stands on its own with all those things just fine. So I think that if you think it's missing something important, maybe it's because you want to shepherd it towards some direction. And whenever I'm asking myself what's missing in something, I always try to turn inward. Like, what am I trying to feel? Like, beyond all the music, that's the biggest question. And that's the thing that binds, you know, that's the thing that Rage Against the Machine and Britney Spears both have in common, is that no matter what kind of music you're making, you're good at it because you're good at making people feel a certain way. I want you to feel rage or happiness or something like that. So this track is maybe the feeling's kind of abstract, you know. It's kind of almost like this distant burial sort of feeling. But maybe if you're wondering where to go with this, my advice is put yourself into your imagination really deeply. Like, where are you in this track, and where do you want to go? Where is further? How do you keep deepening the way that you want this to make you feel? And that is going to unlock what to do with it a lot more than, oh, maybe try add a kick drum or maybe a pad here. Like, all of these are cerebral, like, you know, musical. We're in our musical mind. Sometimes it's just very information, but go deeper than that, bound that. Like, how do you feel about this, and how can you feel that more deeply? That's what I would do.
That's really good advice. I was gonna say, you want to get a pan snare in there immediately. Every quarter note, just. No, I think free Britney, free you, free your emotions. Beautiful sentiment by Shibari. Yeah, I don't have much to add other than what Ben was saying. I think I really like the track. I love that sort of like emptiness, sort of deconstructed, sort of what's the word I'm looking for? The it's disassociative sort of feeling. That's some of the things that I sort of think about with this kind of stuff. And I love how like minimal it is. So you really want something to happen, and then you make us really wait for it. I think that's really fun and interesting. And yeah, just the idea of just having a big old tone at like 20 hertz or whatever you said it was is a really great idea. This is one of those things where it's like, I always feel like I want to hear more stuff like this on a big sound system, and I never know where to go to get that, you know? So, I think it's great. I don't know what you were worried about in the chat in there. I think you're doing a great job. Cool.
Yeah. Really nice work.
Should
Cool.
we go to the
Move
next
on.
one? Yeah.
Okay. Nice work, Numbers. Really nice to meet you with your music there. That's great. This next one, super top secret remix of an unreleased Jim Kimchi song by Man from Seoul. Don't tell anyone. Well, it's a little late for that. Now it's on the stream. All right, Man from Seoul. Here we go.
Nice.
Nice one. Oh man, that's gonna get a follow from me. Boom.
I think okay, I'm gonna jump in first this time with
Yeah.
my feedback. I think okay, so yeah, two things that stood out to me. One is in the beginning bit. I think that it's like, so you've got all those glitchy sounds that are quite like they're loud, they're present, and they're quite kind of like flattened, which I think is good. But I think that's the reason why that snare kind of sticks out to me. It sounds kind of more. I know it's not, but it sounds kind of more like natural, and it sounds more like it's in a space. It sounds more dynamic. Like there's kind of this amplitude tail on it that I feel like makes it stick out a lot from the other sounds. And I think like if you crushed that through a compressor and then put a gate on it, so it was more of like a like with a sharp ending on it, it would we see you. It would make it kind of blend in with the other sounds a little bit more. I would even recommend like maybe not such a punchy snare for that part, because I think it's like also some of the body of that snare also makes it stick out a little bit from the other sounds. I think like a clap, like a more white noisy sort of thing might blend a little bit better with the rest of the mix. The other thing I was sort of thinking, and this kind of goes for the later part of the track, I guess more than the beginning part, is it feels like a lot of the time those glitch sounds, there's like, they feel like this kind of like big chunk of like, and they're kind of like going all the time. And I think cutting some of those sounds out, leaving some gaps, and also maybe some effects on like the whole group of sounds, can also help to sort of like unify stuff into one big chunk. Oh, I think Ben has potentially left the chat. I might have to let him back in again. I don't know what happened. I'm going to keep talking, and then maybe I'll take a little bathroom break because I really have to pee. But the other thing I think is like when it kicks into that sort of techno-y sort of rhythm at the end there, or not at the end, but like the before the end, the groove that's made from the transients of the glitch sounds feels kind of like sloppy against the groove that the kick drum is sort of trying to make. So you have this kind of like like, but then we have this like, and I'm even like, I feel like I'm swinging it more in groove than the original sounds were kind of doing this like weird off-kilter thing, but not, that wasn't like building a swing or building a shuffle or something. It just felt kind of awkward. And I think shortening some of those sounds, having some more silence and stuff, and shortening some of those sounds would help, honestly, quite a lot to get the whole thing going together. Sorry. Ben, you're back? Oh wait, I can't hear you. Oh, you're muted.
Okay. All right. We're back.
I'm gonna quickly go to the bathroom while you say your 2 cents, but I'll be back in a second.
Okay. Sounds good.
Be right.
First of all, Man from Seoul, really nice work on this. Before I cut out there, I was going to just agree with everything that Greg was saying about kind of breaking up some of these wild sounds in the track. And one track I was thinking about that kind of reminds me of this is Huge Chrome Cylinder Box Unfolding by Venetian Snares. It's on the album, the one that's a real circuit bent glitchy album, but it's an 11/8, and there's so many sounds. I mean, it's an assault of the senses, but you can still keep track of what the central rhythmic idea is. It's And no matter how crazy the sounds were, that pattern was repeating it again and again. Let me just refresh my ears with this. So if what you're going for is to do something completely patternless and kind of totally aleatoric and random, then that's one aesthetic. But I think if you were to expand upon this a little bit in a way that might make it more like impactful, I guess, would be to when you're spacing apart these glitchy bits, try to form it into phrases where there's the same amounts of starts and stops, where it's like, you know, no matter what the sounds do, they can create the same size phrases, and maybe you could have a rhythmic motivic structure that you can follow there, for example. Just a suggestion. So the only other suggestion I have does come back to the snare that Greg was talking about. Let me just play this again. Actually, let me start by commenting on the kick. I think that the kick kind of has the same thing that Greg was talking about with the snare. It's like you just hear the whole envelope of it. Everything else is like super nicely compressed, but this kick is just, you know, this one's pretty naked right here. Here we go. Look at that kick. It looks like, basically, it looks the same as it probably looks right in the sample collection. And look, it's really beefy. It's really long. I think what I'm wanting to hear is like maybe like a lot more compression here to where it matches the intensity of the rest of the sounds you're doing. And let me tell you why. All these other sounds, if I play this from here and bring this up, in Ableton, you can watch the RMS versus the true peak level. The true peak is the dark green in the background, and the RMS is the light green in the foreground here. And you can see all this cacophonous sound. The RMS is actually really high, but if we play just this kick, the true peak is a lot higher than the RMS, because everything else is just really, really compressed together, so we perceive it to be louder. RMS is about level perception. So anyway, it'd be really cool if like the kick drum was like shorter and just leveled to be as compressed and loud and right in your face as much as the other stuff, at least to be the same level, if not louder than the other stuff. And okay, then getting over to the snare, similar comments. Yeah, there's a good snare on its own. Well, I just found that. All right, so first of all, I think the snare pattern alternating, it feels a little random to me. Maybe, like again, maybe you're going for that. Maybe you're going for a random aesthetic. It just feels like you could probably serve the purpose of the snare a little better if you put it on the same spot, made it really compressed, maybe went for a sound that sounded a little bit more digital to kind of match these other really digital onslaught sounds that we have here. Yeah, you can kind of see the envelope here. It's like goes kind of fades away right here, and you kind of want to, and maybe also kind of spatialized. You know, maybe fill up not just the, you know, just snare is like a burst of air with a little tone on it, so it's mostly noise with the tone, and it takes up the full spectrum when it's happening. So it could probably also take up more of the stereo field as well. Anyway, those are just some. I think that if you do those two things, it'll sound more woolgy too. It'll sound a little more snaresy.
Nice. Yeah.
Cool tune though. I mentioned when you left, Greg, I said some parts of this reminded me of huge chrome cylinder box unfolding.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wait, no, that's the name of the album, and the track I'm thinking of is called Ion Divi. Have you heard that one?
Who is this by?
Venetian Snares.
I may have heard it a long time. It's been a long time since I've listened to any Venetian Snares, to be honest.
Yeah, but that's the album
name really rings
every
a bell.
sound was, the whole album is circuit bent sounds. And he kind of had this thing of like, I have a million sounds, they're all kind of weird. How do I organize them into cohesive rhythmic phrases? And in the song Ion Divi, that was the one I was trying to reference, it's like, it's a repeating rhythmic motif. It's like, I'm gonna try to beatbox it. And it would do that same thing every time, but every single repetition would have a different sound swapped out. So even though it's a total onslaught of insane circuit bent sounds, it's still really cohesive. Yeah. And I think that just feeding off of the comment that you gave earlier, that maybe you should break it up a little bit, maybe that's the way that you break it up. Maybe you break it up in order to create these pauses that become phrases.
Yeah. That's, I think that's like the better way of saying exactly what I was thinking. That's really, yeah. I really have always really loved that idea of like using different sounds but with the same rhythmic phrasing. I remember a long time ago I played at Fractal Fest, and I came home and I was like everybody's making psytrance. And then that year I think I had also gone to Australia to play some shows and stuff, and I was like, everybody's making psytrance, I want to make psytrance. So I sat down, I don't know if I was like what the thing was, but I had like literally nothing going on. So I sat down, and I think in a week or so I had made like an hour-long psytrance set. And one of the tricks that I used, it wasn't that great, to be honest. And also the other thing is that, so there was I don't know anything about psytrance, so I
gotta hear this too.
It's sort of lost to the ether. I think
oh no.
Rob from Fractal Tribe has it somewhere, but we haven't been able to locate it. We've been talking back and forth over the years of like trying to find it. There's some little bits of it left around somewhere, but I lost it, and he had a copy, but I think he lost it also. But anyways, one thing is I didn't know very much about psytrance. So first thing is I thought it was at like 145 BPM, so my whole set is at 145, I think. So it's pretty fucking intense psytrance. And also I didn't know very much about designing those kind of cool squidgely kind of psytrancey sounds. So one of my approaches to it was to build these kind of like generative tools to make those kind of sounds. And so that was one of the things that I would do, is I'd write like a longer pattern with a couple little kind of rhythmic little phrases in there, but each time the sound would be completely different. And because they weren't like super compressed sounds, you would get these sort of like, and the source material that I was using to kind of build those sounds had its own little pauses in it and stuff. So they as well. So you would get these kind of like alternate phrases, but they still had the same kind of core of it. And yeah, it was a really, really fun experiment. And I remember at the time I think it was also between houses, so I was like crashing on somebody's couch, and then I would like go to the library to like work on this. So I tried set, and I remember like falling asleep to it numerous times. It's just like I'm just like, it's so relaxing for some reason.
Oh my god!
I think it's maybe from like
Rob Fractal Tribe and comp this down. I gotta hear it.
I've got some of it somewhere. I could maybe dig it up.
That's great.
Also,
but those generative tools, that's such a really good idea. You know, you kind of start with what you want the musical structure to be, and then you work backwards with how to create that with your sound design, which I think is a really good approach.
And I know that Man from Seoul is really into that sort of thing. I know he uses a lot of modular stuff as well. It's part of why I kind of brought it up, because I know that that's kind of his approach.
This
to
sounds
doing
like
things.
a really sick jam. I mean, but if I heard this like live in Berlin, you know, and I would not be surprised if this was made by like a wall of Euro racks, some crazy industrialist. You know, I mean, it's really cool, and a lot of what we're saying right now is just kind of like post-production, maybe kind of
absolutely
machine to turn it into a full track. But if I heard this live, I probably wouldn't have any criticism for it. I would just be like, wow, this is crazy.
How did Richard Devine get in here?
Yeah, who let Richard Devine in?
Yeah, totally. Okay, cool. I also wanted to check in with you. How long are you good to go? I know at the beginning when we talked about doing this stream, we talked about doing an hour, and I know we're kind of at the hour mark.
Okay, let's take a look right here. Whoa. Okay, we got a lot right here. Well, let's go a little bit longer, and then I'll have to call it after like one or two more.
Okay, you can if you want, since you're only here for a couple more tracks, if there's any names that poke out at you or that you're familiar with or something, or if you want some suggestions from me, Allison Miquela, then you're welcome to do that, or
okay.
Yeah, as you wish, or we can just go from the bottom and work our way up.
Okay, let's do this one. And didn't you say Patreon?
Yeah, Patreon people go first for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's do the Patreon one, and let's do Allison Miquela,
and I'll do just so people at home are not emotionally disturbed. I'll do the rest of them after Ben calls it a day.
All right, here we go. So this one's coming in from Patreon. Nuan Sora. Cool art. Okay, let's listen.
Very nice.
Okay.
Very nice.
Yeah. Go ahead.
You want to go? Okay, I'll start. What the hell was I going to say? Oh yeah. Okay. So two things. Two things that pop into my head. One is I feel like I was really inspired by this tune and wanted to make something along a similar vein. I don't know if we can watch stuff and not get copyright strikes. So I think we can, but I don't want to risk it because I really want this time with Ben to stay up. So okay, so two thoughts. One thing that kind of got into my head was like, I feel like with this kind of style, with that like heavy sort of swing, and with the kinds of textures and sounds you're working with, I think you can crush it a lot more. Like you can make it dirtier and more distorted and more like muddy and sloshy. Like that's kind of the sound that I kind of imagine in my head when I hear that kind of like you know, like I almost imagine this like massive amount of like dirtiness, not like destroyed, but like, you know, just getting any sort of extra like tapey or sort of, you know, yeah, I'm imagining it like, I don't really know how to describe it, but that's so that's one kind of thought that popped into my head. The other one was that, so later in the song you're playing with that, or maybe it happens earlier too, but it really popped out at me a little bit later. You were playing, you took that 808 and went super high up with it and did a little melody kind of lick with it. I love that kind of stuff. But it made me realize that I think you can get a lot more expression out of each note. And this is something I've been super fascinated with lately. And the reason that I've been making a lot of my melodies by repitching audio clips instead of playing them in the MIDI in the piano roll, is because, so if you took that melody or you took some of the sounds and kind of recreated it with audio clips, you can stretch and you can kind of mess with each individual note. You can have, you know, if you're using an MPE synth, then you can have different pitch bends per note, but if you're not, then doing it the audio way also kind of helps. You can get so much other textures and weirdness and control over the volume envelope and control over everything if you're doing each note, individual note, as its own audio clip. It's super labor intensive, but I think that's part of what brings out the interesting parts to it as well, is like you're trying to plot out your melody and it starts getting really fucking boring. So it's like you have to change the sounds a little bit to like stop from being bored. You have to like, for me it's like this kind of like focus switching. So I'll like play, like I'll plot in a couple notes and then I'll be like, oh god, this is so tedious, and so I'll go in and change the texture of some of the notes to kind of break up the tedium of trying to plot in the melody note by note with audio. But the thing that I really like about that is like how much expression you can get out of like very, very few notes. And each little phrase, like the other thing that can be really fun with that is like you make a little phrase and then you can resample that whole phrase and just really play with the timing. But by playing with the timing, you're also messing with the warp, like with the warp markers, so you get this different expression of the notes based on how you end up stretching it and stuff. There's lots of like kind of fun artifacts and fun stuff that comes out of that. You can play it full volume if you want, Ben.
I agree with everything that Greg just said, and just to further it a little bit, you were talking about how this kind of bass music. This reminds me of Mr. Carmack, and it's got a, you know, kind of a it speaks to a lot of bass music. I think that's happening right now. I think that this bass has like, let's see, like a little bit of noise on the top of it. I hear like the sizzling bass up there, and I think maybe what you want to do is like bring out the sizzle a little bit and also bring out the low end and just fill this up, and maybe even put a widening sort of effect on just the sizzle. If you can get in Ableton, you would create an effects chain, and you would have in parallel probably the through channel, the dry channel, and then you would have one channel that just spatializes and maybe distorts. And it's like the tone and depth sort of effect that you might put on something. So yeah, I think bringing out that bass, just making it, that bass is the lead, it's the star of the show, you know, put it right in front and like make it really like super extra thick. The other comment I had has to do with the music. There's this thing that happens in the second half Da 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 da. That low note. It's like a da 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 da. Is that like a low fifth? Is that what my ear is saying? Da,
There's a bit
da,
of
da, da.
latency with this stream, so you have to wait like a whole minute before they're able to respond.
Oh no, I'm just talking to myself.
Oh, okay, okay.
Because I'm not actually looking at what you're saying. But it's like it goes down to that low note, like da 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 da. So the root note is right here, but the bass goes down here. So down here is not as stable as up here. It's like the harmony is a riff that's in this other key, but you keep hitting this low note, and by the end of the song, it doesn't actually resolve. It's like goes down here, and it doesn't actually come back to the tonic. With this kind of stuff, it's like that when you go to other scale tones like that, they all eventually want to point back towards the tonic. They want to play with this fundamental that you've established. And this whole riff is going along, pointing towards this fundamental. But about halfway through the song down here, it goes down to this other note. It isn't the tonic. It's almost like subdominant. And it wants to point back to here, but it never actually gets up there. So I would say, watch the riffing, watch the harmonic motion on this. It's totally cool to throw that in there, but it leaves you feeling like it wants to resolve, like there's this hanging question mark in the harmony of this track in the second half, because it's hasn't shifted out a key. It's just put that first note. And it's down here, and I keep wanting it to come back to here. Do you get that, Greg?
Yes. Yeah, it's funny because like I was picking up on that, but I really do not have the music theory language or the breadth of knowledge that you have to like be able to put that into words or even like to conceptualize it. I just felt like there was something like that going on, but then as you were explaining, I was like, holy fuck, that's that thing that I was hearing. That's really interesting. That's why I was like smiling like a goon the whole time you were saying that. It's like,
I think it's a low fifth. Sometimes my ear, when it goes down, I mix it up with a 4, but yeah, it's like it's this hanging dominant sort of feeling that wants to point back to the 1. So I would say it's okay to keep it in there, just like resolve that at some point. And yeah, I mean, other than that advice is a pretty good track. It's really coming along. I just think that you could fill it out and like the bass sound design a little bit, fill it out in the mix. Everything Greg was saying about like, I love that advice about chopping it up note by note. Think about every note as a gesture. Each little bit of that beat can feed into this larger, into how you want the body to move. A little bit earlier in this talk, we were talking about that track, that what should we do next, and we said to think about how you want it to make you feel. And this track is very much a body track to me. I think that you as a producer, Nuan, I think you want to make me dance. I think that you want me to move my body. So ultimately, you got to come back to how can each note feed into that. That is the most important thing. How can I get you to do this? And the syncopations really help. The phrasing is good. It's funky. You're doing this pentatonic thing. It's all awesome. But if you were to lean further into that, then it could get funkier and funkier, and it could just exaggerate what it's already doing so much more. Especially taking Greg's advice, like examine every single note, think about how to like get up. Oh, less overlapping too. I think there could probably be a bit more sidechain compression, like really crush it when those kicks and snares hit. Listen to Mr. Carmack for reference. He's such a good producer, and it sounds like this would be a Mr. Carmack track.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I think to me it feels like you're in like, it feels like you focused a lot on the harmony stuff, like the melody harmony kind of musical aspect of this, and now I think it would be a really good moment to pivot and just really focus on the sound design, because sound design can really affect like how how something moves and makes you move a lot too. And yeah, getting that suction, getting that like kind of motion that Ben was doing, I think sound design is a huge part of that. Yeah, cool, very nice.
Cool, love it. All right, let's go over to our last one. Great music today. Gosh, I wish I could just stick around the entire day. Oh, cool. Reza's in here. Say that. You got to do that one.
Okay, yeah.
I'm passing that one to you. That's
okay.
An awesome one. Awesome producer right there. Okay, we're going into Allison.
Allison had to take off, I think, but I think you will enjoy her work.
Okay. All right. Well, it's coming with the woulg nod, so I already have very high expectations. Let's go. Whoa, that was totally insane.
Holy fuck.
Holy crap. Allison Miquela. Wow. If I heard that, I'd think it was you. It sounds just like you.
I think she's got she knows how to do some shit that I do not know how to do.
Yeah, how does she make this? This is incredible.
I'm not really sure, to be honest. We have this is another person that takes lessons with me, and she's always making crazy stuff in Max and just doing the craziest shit. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure how how she's doing this stuff. Her and I are working on a collab track.
Wow.
And actually, I'm doing a collab with Wireframe Wolves as well. And a couple others.
Nuts.
So there's going to be a fun collab album, I think. Yeah, it's always funny when when she sends something in for the track review, because I'm always like, keep doing what you're doing. It's good. I really like what's happening
picture.
here. Yeah.
Great. Catherine and I have a family of chickens, so we're very affectionate with birds.
Nice.
Gosh, but yeah, no, I'm flabbergasted, like you described, and that I don't know what to say. This is really good. Sounds like you. Sounds like Arca right here. You know?
Yeah, those synths are huge.
Arca vibe right here.
I love those grainy snares too. They're like so nice.
This is another level, totally insane. I think that the only place this needs to go from here is it says no bass, so obviously some bass is probably lined up to be added on this. That'll be awesome. And once bass is added, then you can get the full spectra balance, and then compress from there. And all I think that this needs is, you know, just some dynamic processing and some balancing a little bit. And but I mean, yeah, this is really this is a feast.
Yeah, I had a feeling you'd like that one.
Yeah.
One thing I was gonna
for my ears.
Thing I was gonna mention was with those synths there. One of the things that it was a couple of weeks ago, I think I ended up. I'm not sure if I talked to her about this, but I in a couple weeks ago I ended up talking with a bunch of my students about like using the amount of voices on your synth in a creative way, because you have like that voice stealing loop, and you can set that up in multiple ways of like, are we stealing the lowest voice, or are we stealing the latest voice, or the last voice, or whatever, and using the amount of voices in your synth while you're writing to control like how the whole mass of the synth moves. And you can kind of hear something like that going on in there, that like when we go to those high notes, it's pulling all the low notes away.
All of those oscillators are going together. It's not like you're just latching onto another. I totally know what you mean.
I love that.
I have my favorite synth is my OB6 sequential circuits polyphonic analog synth, and it's got 6 voices in it. So whenever I'm writing big harmonies, I try to use every single voice because it just acts differently when you do. The portamentos sound great. It's like very consistent. And when you're writing harmony, when you're writing counterpoint, then your voices actually stay where they ought to be, and the mix is really consistent. So yeah, that I can hear that right there. I was thinking one bit of advice might be to widen up those saw waves a little bit, maybe. But you know, it's like that's one of those things where like maybe you try it and it's not as good. I really don't know.
I think I'm with you on that. I would imagine that some of that stuff is going to happen in the finesse and mixing that she mentioned was going to happen later. But yeah, I would imagine those synths as being like mega wide and just taking up like this fucking huge amount of the stereo field. The last thing I wanted to mention about the voices thing. The other thing that you can kind of do, which is a pain, but there's some interesting things that happen with it. This is part of why I really like I stick to the stock synths in Ableton, and I just keep banging my head against it until something comes out. So this is one of the things that kind of came out from that, is just like really focusing in on the way that like portamento and the synth voices and the voice stealing stuff happens. One of the things that's kind of nice that you can also do is, if you know how many voices you have, you can sort of plan out which note is going to bend to which other note with the portamento. And which is, I think, kind of what you were talking about before. And it can make, especially if you have, so one of the things that this is really fun for is if you're making kind of a repeating ARP thing, but the ARP has a different amount of notes than you have voices, then you can get different expression each time it goes around the arp, because different notes will bend to the, especially you have like or whatever.
It's like a 3-note arp, but like 4 voices.
Yeah.
Rotate the phase of which note. But that's a cool idea, man.
It's really fun, cool. Yeah. And you get all this weirdness from it. So sometimes, like, especially the way that I often like to write arps is like there's a kind of bundle of lower notes and then one note that's like way higher than the others. So you get, sometimes it'll bend up to that one, sometimes something else will happen, and you just get this like weirdness from it that I really like. It adds a little bit of extra interest to the things, and especially with those stock synths, I find the whole name of the game is like just find these little settings where you can add a tiny little bit of extra interest, and you just have to go ham on all of those every time you come at the synth, because otherwise it sounds super boring. Yeah. But that's part of what I like, the struggle of like using those built-in synths. Yeah, cool, very
that's
cool.
Awesome, unlocking their soul.
Yeah.
And was that with analog that you were doing that, or operator? Or?
I was doing it with analog. I find it's.
I gotta try that.
It's. I find I get a lot more out of analog for leads. Of course, like sometimes you want something really glassy and stuff, and then I'll use operator for it. The other thing that I really like using for synths is the sampler, but then taking a sample and just like using one cycle or something. Yeah. Not exactly one cycle, but like a really, really small part of the sample, because then you get all these like weird artifacts and stuff, and that can be really fun. Or wavetable is also really fun for, obviously, for synth sounds. But I don't know, lately I've been watching that Bad Gear series on YouTube. I don't know if you've seen that. What's his name? Audio Pills or something. He does this series on YouTube called Bad Gear, where he reviews the world's most hated audio gear or something. And a lot of the time he just like defends it and stuff, but it's such a great series. And one of the things that I've really learned from that is like kind of how far you can go, how many different sounds you can make with like a very limited range, I guess, because that's one of the things that he does with the Bad Gear is he sort of like flexes it and makes all these kind of cool tunes with it. And that I feel like I've learned quite a lot from just watching that shit and then trying to implement on analog.
You gotta go the extra mile to make it sound good.
Exactly, you know? Yeah.
Instead of just being like, oh, this is Bad Gear because it doesn't sound how it intends to sound.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
We end up loving the little things about things that make it imperfect.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Like the sound of tape machine and VHS making a huge comeback right now. Mm-hmm. Back in those days, it was just like something you had to deal with.
Yeah, and CD skipping.
CD skipping, yeah.
That's a fan favorite for this channel.
Oh, that's great. I love that sound. Just to do it like really perfectly where you're really that genuine.
One of the things that I've recently, I don't know how to do it intentionally yet, but one of the things that I've noticed about, because I've been doing all this like chopping up little samples and stretching them and stuff like I was talking about with the melodies. One of the things that I've noticed is sometimes Ableton will fuck up. I think it depends on the warp mode. I haven't nailed it down exactly. But it will fuck up and give you this really like high-pitched like blurp sort of sound at the beginning of some, or at the end of some samples. Like if you have a bunch of them warped and it's like kind of using a lot of like CPU and trying to...
Yeah.
And so sometimes you get these weird little sounds, and they're really cool. I haven't figured out how to get it to happen intentionally yet, but when it does happen, I'm always like, oh yeah, that's one of those things that like those artifacts that I feel like, yeah, it's like
you're a master artifact finder, man. You're like the great archaeologist of sound artifacts.
That's been my whole shit, like since I started making electronic music. It's just like being like, okay, how can this like go wrong, and is it cool when it goes wrong, or how can I make it sound cool when it goes wrong? You know?
Yeah. That's what I've always really loved about your music. I mean,
thanks, man.
I can't reverse engineer it. That's one of my favorite things about it. I can't listen to Wool and be like, let's try to do that. Be like, nope. You just cannot. You can't. That is genuinely pulled from the depths of some sound design machine. But yeah, man. Hey, I got to give a shout out to.
Please.
I'm really looking forward to seeing you at Astronauts.
Same.
In Texas, this September, October, right?
October. I think so. Yeah.
I mean, we mentioned at the start of the program, but dude, it's been so long since I've seen you play live. I'm gonna be front row. I'm gonna be raging out to all the whips.
Dude, same for yours, man. I'm so stoked to hear you. I don't know if I even have seen you play, to be honest.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I'm not sure if I have, and so I'm really, really excited to just like do some things that shall not be named and enjoy your set.
Well, you got to get there early in the week. We're actually opening the week, and you and Rob Clough are closing the week.
Okay. Yeah, I would like to really stay for I honestly would really like to come for the whole thing. We'll see what we can do about that, but I'm
gonna be there for the whole thing. I'm glad I'm getting my set out of the way, and then the rest of the weekend I could just be a custy. And nice. And at first I was like, oh come on, put me in the same night as Rob Clough and woulg, but Nick Sumbles is so good at curating a lineup. He showed me the other artists. I'm like, okay, we're playing right next to Flintwick. We use the same synth to make our sounds, me and Flintwick. So
wicked.
Flintwick and Dizzy is always a great combo. Like sonically, it makes so much sense. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that, and I hope to meet anyone out there on the stream that really wants to come to what I think is going to be the premier boutique sound designer producer event. It's going to be this small festival, and it's going to have woulg and Rob Clough and the Flashbulb.
It's going to be wild.
It's going to be insane.
It's going to be wild.
Yeah. That's going to be awesome.
I'm really stoked about that.
That's all the time I have. I got to get going, unfortunately. I got a really, really huge day tomorrow. I'm on UK time right now. But hey, thank you so much for having me on. Let's do it again.
My pleasure.
I want to show you some of the things I've done in Max. We haven't caught up for a while, so
it's true.
I think dive into the spectral and granular time stretching and some of the concatenative synthesis stuff that I have. I think that your stream would be the perfect place to unpack some of the nerdier stuff.
That's what it's for. That's what it's for.
Working on. Yeah.
I really want to do it would be really nice to do a long, proper interview and proper nerd session where you're like, hey, check this out, and then I'm like, oh, that makes me think of check this out, and then you're like, oh, check this, and then I think this is the place to do it for sure.
I agree. Let's totally make that a thing, and let's dive into that. Okay. And hey, everybody who's here for track review, I'm very sorry if I did not get to your track, and I just want to say thank you to everybody whose track I did get to. Everything I heard today was really inspiring, and Greg, you've created an absolutely beautiful community here.
I love these people.
Like-minded weirdos, and we're all making these the sounds to actually really push the envelope. I love that little warning you had on your Twitch channel. If you upload trap, I will laugh at you.
Yeah.
Well, because I think it's really important to make these spaces for experimental artists and be able to talk about experimental music with people that aren't expecting, oh, well, that's not going to get on Beatport Top 10.
Exactly.
There's such a world of electronic music out there that touches on so many feelings and emotions that often just get instantly labeled as not dancey enough or not trendy enough and stuff. So it's really, really good to have this space, and I really thank you for fostering this community.
Hey, it's my pleasure. I really thank you for coming by. It's a real treat to have you on here with your totally next level feedback and stuff. You can see the millennia of teaching experience that you have just come through. I don't know, you just you really, and I think that also is a real treat to have you on here because it really inspires me to kind of push every time I talk to you, it inspires me to push my teaching to the next level. So that's always awesome. Thank you for that.
Thank you too, man. It's such a pleasure talking to you. Let's do it again sometime real soon.
For sure. Okay, and for everybody else, we're going to take a little quick, 10-minute break to get a little snack because I'm feeling snacky. And and hopefully you are too. Food is good. And we will meet back here in, let's say 10 minutes and continue with the track review. Okay. See you, man.
Later, everybody. Bye.
Oh, now I gotta find some music to play. Here we go. I have returned. Yes, that was from my collection of dang step. Or as I like to call it, swang step. No, I don't know what I call it. Okay, so we're back. I got a couple things loaded up. So just FYI, my computer fucking sucks right now. So it's probably going to shit the bed. And if it does, well, that's probably going to be the end of the stream. I'm trying to get one as quick as possible, but you know how it is. Okay, so here we go. We got our old friend login depicted here. Classic pose. Let's get to business. Beauty. Fucking beauty. Really nice to hear you guys working together. I think it came out really nice. Very, very nice. I would say one thing. I think you've sacrificed a little bit too much bass for the clarity. Like, it feels like you pulled down the bass to get more kind of like techie clear stuff out of the high end. And I think that's obviously a smart approach, but I feel like you can give us a lot more bass. Because it feels a little bit like sharp. It's a little bit too sharp and techy. But in terms of songwriting and stuff, I think it's really nice. That's you in the voiceover. That's fucking great. I was wondering where the hell that sample came from. That's brilliant. Yeah, I really like it. And I like it. I really like all the kind of twitchy stuff going on here. I also really like this, like, that's the thing I'm thinking of. Okay, I can't even find it anymore, but there was a nice thing with those, like, kind of broken pans kind of sounds that sounded really, there was a really cool kind of little melodic thing that kind of was popping out of that, and I really liked it. Yeah, my only feedback is really just make the bass louder. So, great job. Okay, and then we got Zwanky and Creon. Okay, hold on. Okay, we're gonna skip the jazzy parts. I will give you a review on the non-jazzy parts. Oh shit! I left the mic on the whole time. Yeah, really cool. Except for the jazz parts. Why would you do this to me? This is a strictly no jazz stream. Okay, so yeah, and sorry if you heard me creak in the chair and farting and. Oh, is the feedback from the. Interesting. Okay, so anyways, okay, some little thoughts. One thing is I feel like this one is also like kind of biased toward the high end, but I wonder if that was also partially just because my headphones don't, their headphones. But I had a thought about the shape of the bass. So it sounds like it's kind of a pure saw in the low, or sine in the low end, and I think you can get more sort of fatness. Actually, there's a great Mr. Bill video that I watched about this recently. I don't 100% agree with his. Well, no, that's not entirely true. I feel like I learned a lot from it. He has this video where he's like, I'm never going to be able to find it if I try to bring up YouTube right now, so I'm not even going to try, but he has this great video where he looks at someone else's bass through an oscilloscope, and then he's like trying to recreate that same wave shape, which I thought was like such a weird and interesting way of thinking about making a bass sound. But one thing that he kind of gets into that is it's called Making Perfect Subs, where he learned it from Copycat. Yeah. That's it's such an interesting video to me. So there's a couple different things that you can do. One thing that he does in that video is you have your first oscillator as a saw, or I keep saying that, as a sine wave, and then your second one is one octave up, and it's just turned up a little bit, and then he's playing with the phase of that second saw, and what that lets you do is it's sort of like squarifying. Like if you look at the wave shape, it's sort of like almost making it slightly more square or slightly saw-ish. You get this like secondary lump in your sine wave that kind of does this little woo sort of thing. I can't remember if he's doing it with FM or if he's just layering them, and then after that he puts that through a saturator to like squarify it even more. I don't know if that's what he does in that video, but that's what I ended up doing after watching that video. I just found it like quite an interesting thing, and lo and behold, it makes a nice fat ass bass. The other trick that I've been messing around with lately is that doing that weird EQ curve thing for the bass. And I initially I remember, so what you do is you basically you boost around 30 to 50 hertz or something. Like you boost that really low octave a little bit, and then you cut at 100, a little bit over 100 hertz. So you get this kind of woo sort of line. And I don't know, when I first tried that, I was like, this is weird and I don't like it. But now the more I play with it, the more I'm like, oh, this is really nice, because you can get this huge energy in the subs without filling up that sort of it's high mids or low mids, sort of high bass area, around that 100 hertz where you really want to have the space for your kick and stuff, the punch of your kick. And there's a bunch of other stuff that sounds good if it's kind of you just whatever. So that's kind of a nice and that's what it kind of feels like is the problem with the bass that you're using in here, is that there's a lot of that around 100 hertz frequency and not so much of the octave below. And that is making it sound kind of, I don't know if I know the right term for this, but it's almost boxy or like bloated a little bit without having that like earthy bigness of the subs. You can hear it a little more clearly over here. I think the bass itself can also be quite a bit louder in the mix here because you're hearing, because of that reverb that you've got on the top end of it, that is pulling it away from the speakers, and it makes it feel a little bit further away and quieter and stuff. But it's a really cool idea for bass sound design, and just in general, I really like that the sound design in these sections. I'm not a huge like making it wet type of guy, but I like to keep it dry. Damp is the furthest I'll go. But yeah, and I also just really like this really distorted lead thing. That's really nice. Really like the way that kind of like melody comes together. It's very cool and edgy. Okay, we got Nadrisk. Stuff from Buzz, yeah. Okay, we'll do this one first. And then Teague is next. Or Taig, I don't know how to say that. I'm just going to load 2 at a time right now because otherwise my computer will die.
A great way to get traffic from Google is through this WooCommerce Google.
God damn you, Google. So in my search to try to cut down on RAM usage, I was taking away some of my extensions or plugins or whatever they're called for Chrome, and I accidentally deleted the one that gets rid of those ads on YouTube. I really regret it, and I just haven't had a moment to go back in. So anyways, that's my excuses, and now let's listen. This track is like 10 minutes or something, so maybe we'll listen to the first... what's this? Is this an ad break? Oh no, part 1. Okay, part 1 is done here, so let's listen to part 1. Very, very cool. I really, really like that. God. Yeah, super, super huge sort of like imagined landscape that it puts you in. I really, really love that. Very kind of futuristic-y sounding, or like retro-futurism sort of. I really like it. One thought that popped into my head, kind of the only feedback I'd have for this maybe, is, you know, the like rip, 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 rip sort of sound that's going on? Yeah, there it is. Rip, 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 rip. So one way that I've been sort of thinking about mixing lately is that, or like using the stereo field, is like as a way of sort of like setting the stage for the sounds. And I think in this case, that rep 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 sound to me feels like it should be more of a background element, but it's quite centered in the mix. Whereas that or whatever that cool lead is doing, that thing feels like the central component, but it's quite kind of far away and spaced out. So to me, those things feel like maybe it would make sense to kind of invert them, or at least kind of get that rep rep sort of sound a little bit more out of the way. Like, you could probably just stereo expand it, and that would be enough. Like with some sort of, I would do, yeah, basically anything, to be honest. Any sort of has delay or something that's gonna really like get it out of that middle channel, and then there'll be more space for that synth in there. But I don't think that's like a deal breaker, game changer sort of thing. It's like just the only thing that that pops into my head. Okay, and we got Teague. Take. Very big, very nice. Whip started from nothing and going nowhere, no mixing, nothing. Would love to figure out where this is supposed to go, or if what I have right now is even any decent. I think what you have now is very decent. Very good, in fact. one thing that this strikes me as being a really good candidate for is the scratchy kind of thing. Like load it into scratchy and just start, and you'll get so many nice little weird things in there. Especially this part here. So one thing, this is a real like nitpicky thing, is these runs. That one's good. I think you can spice those up a little bit with avoiding, like missing some of those. So like just not to hit every 16th note or whatever those are in there. That will help. Or also, one thing I do if I'm doing a bunch of those runs and I'm finding that it's like a bit too much or something, I'll just resample that little run and stretch it in some way, and you get a little bit more movement out of it that way. And you don't have to worry too much about it being on any sort of grid or anything. Sometimes it sounds better if it does line up with some sort of grid somewhere at some point, but yeah, it helps to spice those guys up a little bit. I think that you can have a little bit more of that, like these kicks could be a bit punchier. I think the way that I would do it is like find a different kick to sort of or like replace some of the lower parts of this one with. And you can do that with, you could sidechain, like make a crossover and then just sidechain the lows out of this one with the new one, or I don't know. So yeah, you'll have to see kind of what works best there. You could maybe use a filter that you use an envelope follower to like raise the filter to like make more space in the low end, or maybe if you just layer it on top, it'll sound fine. It's hard to say. Yeah. The audio vocal clip in their track, the one that was login with you mean the drum and bass one? The drum and bass one was login and Nuan. And I think that I is a 1 and the O is a 0 or something, one of those. Okay, nice. Thank you. I'll load a couple more. Okay, here we go.
Hi, this is cassette number 2. Cassette number 2. Second recording. So I found this really weird lay disc in the old video game store. The guy said it was for PS2, but I don't know. So I'll try to put it into my PlayStation 2. Yeah, here we go. That's pretty weird. I'm going to restart it again. Oh my god. Oh wait, I think it's working now.
très émouvant, je vous assure. C'est le mot de Richelieu.
That one sounded interesting too. Very good. What do I have to reload the SoundCloud page to sign in? Is that what you're saying? Come on. Try reloading the page. Oh, there we go. Okay, I didn't read that. I'm gonna follow you because I really like that. Hey everyone, I found this really weird looking disc in an old video game store. I love this idea, the little concept thing. Some people were saying that it's a Igloo Ghost reference. I think Igloo Ghost was making a Blazik reference. So let's be honest here, okay? Let's be real. But yeah, I really liked the spectrally goodness. I have no qualms with this at all. I think you could have the voice maybe a little quieter. I don't know, then it's a vibe. I like it. You could also, the other thing that you can play with is like the idea of sort of like the sound in the room versus like going into the sound world, right? So maybe when you put the cassette in, it sounds like like we can hear it as if it's playing through a TV in your room or something. And as this swell comes in here, it opens up in the mix and then we're like inside of it. And we pull out for a second and then you have your...
That's very weird. I'm going to restart it again.
You know, playing with that of like how big it is in the space or something. I think that might also make it feel like it's coming out of the TV or something, like that it's like when you start playing the sound, it's coming out of the TV, but then you're like, and it's like entering the room or something. Yeah, really, really cool idea. I love that kind of concept-y stuff. I think it's very... We should have more of that. Come on. Let's get real. It's time to have more of that stuff. Can we get real for a second? Let's get real. Okay, here we go.
Hésite.
Yeah, really like that. Okay, so I have some thoughts about like the kind of mastering side, which I think like is not really that important. Like you can always kind of deal with that later. You could like, because I think the thing is maybe you could get away with a little bit less highs, or just finding some of those harsher frequencies in the highs and pulling them down a little bit. But I don't think it's a huge deal. I also really like the evolution of the track, like how we go through these different worlds and stuff. And I have one little nitpick. So this little vocal thing, I think it's that. So I like all the other notes in there. And I think when it happens once, the like thing sounds cool, but then you go back to it again. Somewhere here, I think. And I think you really don't have to go back to that. That it feels cheeky the first time, and then the second time it feels like it's like making this section more silly, instead of like the really interesting and cool sort of seriousness that it has, which I think is really strong. It feels a little bit like unintentionally silly, whereas if you just do it once, it feels like it makes sense. That's like a really little nitpick thing. I want to sound a bit dirty, harsh, but also don't want to lose too much high frequency. Yeah, totally. Yeah, it can be really hard with this kind of stuff to dial it in, so that you get that nice, dry, high frequency, crispy stuff, but not without kind of being like unpleasant. Actually, if Numbers is still around, Numbers does that a fair bit, and I think gets a really quite pleasant sound out of it. You could also ask Jim Kimchi. He might give you some good thoughts on that. I'm not an expert in that at all, to be honest, so I'm not quite sure how to advise you there. All right, D-Man. Damn. Very nice. Very, very nice. I don't really have a whole lot of feedback for that. Just make it longer, I guess. I like how it starts out quite like bright and playful, and then it kind of goes to a darker place. It's like not fully dark, but it goes a little bit darker. Yeah, I can get down with this kind of jazziness. It's not my number one love, but I can get down with it. What else do I say? Yeah, I think it's really nice. I think you got to make it longer. Gotta finish it. Yeah. I really like these little bits. Yeah, very like melancholy sort of melody sort of thing. I really like that. Very cool. Okay. Sale ends soon, guys. Make sure to get your sale items. Ooh, that's a nice picture. Okay, then... fucking sick. Very good. Very, very nice. I think, oh, hello. Yeah, I really like it. At the beginning I was sort of like, oh man, this is pretty long. I don't know about this. But I think it justifies itself. Yeah, it feels good that long because we have more time to get into the sort of meditative mindset that it's sort of setting up. Reminds me a lot of Andy Stott kind of stuff, and yeah, I think it's really great. Does anyone else have any? Is Ben here? He was here. I don't know if he had to leave or something. I also want these cans. I think they're pretty nice. Pretty good. Okay, so just a little warning. We have a bunch of tracks left, and we're really running out of time here, and we've got like 15 minutes left. So, I'll try to get through a couple more. I think. What did I see? Oh wait, we had another Patreon person, didn't we? No. Okay. Prioritize people that are here. Yeah, I'm down with that. So is Jack Lyon here? Dendroid's here. I like that idea. Okay. Is Ryan LaPlante here? You still want to do this? What else we got? Okay, so I don't think Jack's here. Although I am keen to hear that one. 2:30? Are you here? 2:30? Dendroid's here. Yeah, I saw that. Ember Sleep is here for sure. 2:30 is here. Okay. Ryan LaPlante. Okay. You want to do your track? SBK Alday? SP Cal. I used to do that. I used to do the not review tracks when people were unresponsive. But then I realized a lot of people submit tracks and then they want to watch it afterwards. So I was like, well, okay. Okay, we'll save the trap for later. Maybe. Shibari. Oh, nice. Play Jack Lyon stuff. Okay. We'll consider. Reza is here. I saw him talk in the chat. Some Fool. Is Some Fool here? I think we can get through all these. Hopefully. Okay, and we'll put Jack at the end just in case. If we feel like it. Or maybe that'll be the outro tune or something. Okay, here we go. 2:30. Fucking sick. I love those, like... How do you make I don't even know how to fucking make those sounds. They're like... pitchy noise? Like, I don't understand how... I really like them. Sound like, Sounds spectral, y'all. It's like when you don't know how a sound is made. It's like, it's gotta be modular. It's gotta be spectral. You need to be there to get feedback. He uses a raffle system if you're not there. That's a good... I like that. Absinthe is a good tool for that. Apply a texture with a random pitch modifier. Very cool. Very cool. GRM tools. Yeah, I haven't really played with GRM tools. I fucking should, though. I don't know why I haven't. It reminds me a little bit of this thing that I've been playing with recently. Oh, fuck, we don't have time to show it. I'll maybe try to show it after. I'll show it a little bit later. But, anyways, the track is really nice. I think, you got space here. You got enough interesting stuff to like get the attention of anybody listening. I think this track would be much longer, to be honest. That being said, I really like how it develops. This section on its own could be like way longer, I think. Yeah, good vibes, good tones, good tunes. The melody stuff. I mean, the voice, I guess. Yeah, really beautiful shit. Look, I'm already following you. What do you think about that? Ha! And yeah, I love this. Did you send it? You should have sent it. Yeah, beautiful stuff. Dendroid. Sorry I didn't have very much feedback for that one. I just like it. I just really like it. I think I noticed in the chat you said that parts could be brighter and stuff. It's interesting because I kind of felt the opposite, that there's some sounds in there that feel maybe a little bit too sharp, a little bit too crispy in the highs. Some of the stuff that was layered on the clap felt like really crazy bright. And I think some of that could be brought down a little bit. The other thing I was thinking is with the kicks. Where are they? I think this could be a nice opportunity for something that has a little bit more. It's like a little bit shorter of a kick. Or playing with the length of the clip. So you have some that are accented and some that are not accented. But yeah, I think there's definitely lots of interesting stuff in here. Although I would say, like, for the amount of stuff that's going on here, I feel like you could finish the track a little bit. Like, you could condense some of this down a little bit. And especially with this kind of like chill vibe kind of stuff, I think maybe it's because because we're in a hurry. So take that with a grain of salt. Leave the track length whatever you think it should be. Don't listen to me too much about that. The other thing is, I think, like, in some places we've got like in some of these places, I feel like if you took out that ARP, the like or whatever, it would leave a lot more space in here, and I think that would be really interesting and nice, just to really let it sort of float, right? So you've got the like, right, and then these like slow melodic things, and it's all sort of like floating and ethereal until those kind of kicks come in, or like, you know, in the parts in between the kicks or whatever. I think that could be a nice thing to play with in there. Okay, we got Ember Sleep, and then I think we're gonna have to call it a day there. So, because we're right at, we got 1 minute left. Okay, cool. I have a couple thoughts on this. So one is, I totally forgot about that fucking polyrhythm track, and actually this kind of touches on one of the things I didn't really enjoy that much about the original polyrhythm track, is I think like you have some cool riffs in here, but you don't give us enough time to like enjoy them before you move on to the next weird thing. There's a lot of cool stuff in here, but when you cycle through it that fast, then there's like, yeah, there's like kind of not enough time to enjoy them, and then so we don't really get to enjoy them. One that stuck out to me. So yeah, so there's this kind of cool shit that happens here, and I think like when you catch a nice vibe, it's cool to like sit in it, refine it a little bit, give us the satisfaction of like enjoying that vibe before you move on to the next one, and give us a second to catch what's going on with the rhythm. And this is, yeah, like one of the things that I didn't really like that much about the original is that there was like a bunch of stuff happening, but then it was like we didn't really get the chance to like enjoy any of the bits. They were just kind of, I think I'm saying the same thing over and over again. The other thing is like, I think you can pay a little bit more attention to what notes you're hitting, and you can get a little bit more experimental with like how you're processing the sounds. So we're getting a lot of like we're getting a lot of that sound kind of unprocessed, right? But if that sound was changing so it's like or something like that, like doing some weird transition while that thing is happening, it can kind of stick together more as a gesture. And I think the other thing is like when you're doing stuff in weird time signatures, there's two ways that you can kind of go with it, and I think it usually works best when you have both avenues. So the one way is to like try to make the weird polyrhythm, like the weird time signature or polyrhythm or whatever, sound as understandable as possible. So it's like it feels as natural as possible. This is the kind of thing that you hear in Radiohead all the time, where they're doing fucking weird ass rhythmic shit, but like you don't even notice, right? Because it just sounds like vibey and chill and fine, right? And then the other way is to make it super, super awkward and weird. And I think it works best when you think of that as a spectrum of tension, and you can then use that to build musical tension in your track. So you go from something vibey, chill, like not necessarily chill, but like vibey and understandable, and then it starts to break apart into this really awkward stuff. And the resolution to the awkward stuff is to go back to the vibey sort of stuff. Because kind of how you have it now, it like gets to this tense feeling, and then it just sort of stays there in the tense world, but the tenseness never resolves. Or when it does sort of touch down for a bit, like it kind of does here. To me, this feels like it's almost landed in something kind of understandable, but then we weave away from it a little too quickly. So yeah, I think picking through this and finding the best bits, and then just taking the time to really create those transitions between the weird bits that you have and something more easily understandable. And it'll also make it bang a lot harder too, I think, because I know that you're kind of more of like you like to make more like heavy dance floor related music, and I think it'll work a lot more in that context if you go. You hear this in a lot of like the kind of hyper glitchy stuff as well, I think, where you have these moments of like straightforward, understandable, satisfying, big beat hit halftime sort of thing, and then it goes off into the weird shit, and then that resolves back to the big heavy stuff. But anyways, I think you should keep going with this. I think it's a really, really interesting experiment, and I think there's a lot here. There's a lot that you can do with this. Okay, so we're sort of out of time. I was going to show you a thing, but I'll show it to you next time. Something that people were having a hard time dancing to. So simple if people just got out of their one quarter note vibe of all EDM and make it even harder to dance to. Nice. I like that. I like that as an idea. I think that's a great idea, and it's a really interesting and smart. I think so. If you want to do that, illustrate, like show us where that, show us where that quarter note stuff lands. So this happens to me a lot too. Actually, I'll be working on something. I'm like, check out this really clear, understandable, like vibey thing. And then I'll play it to somebody else and they'll be like, what the fuck is this? Like, where is the beat? Where do things land in this, And after years of doing that, I feel like I've really sort of realized that it really helps to show, if you want that effect, you want to sort of show where that one is and then take it away and then bring it back and take it away. And that will give you that it'll help the person that's listening to it sort of understand where, like you got to give them something. Like you got to give us some idea of where to start with that, and then it'll be a lot clearer for your audience, and then you can really fuck with them in this way. But yeah. Anyways, great stuff. Great work, everybody. We're going to call it there for today. Thank you for joining me, as always. And I hope to see you next week. Same time, same place. Yeah. Bye-bye.